I've been seeing a lot of Ravens fans over the last couple of weeks saying that Lamar Jackson has quit on the Ravens, his teammates, and his franchise. I disagree with that. People are trying to make this about the contract situation when I really don't think this is about the contract situation. I think that people are trying to use the contract situation to push a narrative about Lamar Jackson that is not true. If you know Lamar Jackson and you've watched Lamar Jackson, his interviews, his post-game pressers, you know that this guy is ultra competitive. If he has the opportunity to be out there with his teammates, he's going to take it. Lamar Jackson isn't the kind of player to miss games due to a contract dispute. He didn't have to play this season. He could have just said, F it. Y'all don't want to pay me. I'm not going to play. I'm just going to sit out until we strike a deal. As a matter of fact, a lot of people aren't mentioning this, but Lamar Jackson actually gave the Ravens a deadline for a new extension so it wouldn't be a distraction during the season. Like, are people not remembering this? Eric DaCosta, their general manager, literally released a statement when they didn't come to terms with a new deal at the deadline that Lamar gave them. He said, despite our best efforts on both sides, we were unable to reach a contract extension with Lamar Jackson. We greatly appreciate how he has handled this process, and we are excited about our team with Lamar leading the way. We will continue to work towards a long-term contract after the season, but for now, we are looking forward to having a successful 2022 campaign. Statement from general manager Eric DaCosta. And yet, people are still trying to make this about Lamar Jackson's contract. I don't really think it's about the contract. I really just think Lamar Jackson wasn't able to play. A lot of people on Twitter act like they know so much about PCL sprains and injuries. Everybody's a doctor when it comes to player injuries. But for some reason, though, Marlon Humphrey, after the loss to the Bengals, said that he saw Lamar Jackson walking around the facility hobbled. He was 60%. So if Marlon Humphreys is saying that Lamar Jackson is hobbled, he's 60%, he wouldn't have been good enough to play, I think I'll take his word over, people in the media and whatever people are saying when it comes to Lamar Jackson. I think that the Ravens are low-key trying to use the media creative narrative that's being pushed about Lamar and trying to use that as negotiations to lower his asking price. And for those of you guys who don't know how the business side of the NFL works, this is how it goes. This is how it goes when you're using, when you're trying to negotiate contracts. You try to find ways to sign somebody to the deal that most favors you. That's what people don't understand about the situation. Everybody wants Lamar Jackson to risk his health and risk his career and his livelihood for the Baltimore Ravens, and yet the Baltimore Ravens don't want to pay the man. You get what I'm saying? But yet we want to say Lamar Jackson quit on the Ravens, though. Did Lamar Jackson really quit on the Ravens? Or do the Ravens not believe in Lamar Jackson? If the Ravens don't believe that Lamar Jackson is worth his asking price, then they should trade him. You see, at the end of the day, people treat you how they feel about you. If the Ravens felt like Lamar Jackson was the guy, I felt like he would already have a contract extension already. If the whole problem is about, is Lamar Jackson worth all that money when, you have the injury concerns? Listen, man, all of Lamar Jackson's injuries, most of them have occurred inside of the pocket. So even then, injury concerns or not, Lamar Jackson still should be getting paid. If the Ravens won't pay Lamar Jackson what he wants, somebody else will. And before you use the whole salary cap or whatever nonsense you want to use, I promise you, there's a team right now that doesn't have the salary cap to afford the Lamar Jackson extension. But I promise you, if he was available today, right now, at this moment, they will find a way to make that cap space available to give Lamar Jackson a new deal if the Ravens were to put him on the trade block. So for the Baltimore Ravens, this is a really bad look for them. You fans can say all you want to, but these players, at the end of the day, they see what's really happening. And these players, they're not holding back. You heard J.K. Dobbins said after the game. You heard J.K. Dobbins when he said if Lamar Jackson would have played, would have won. That's true. And Coach Harbaugh, he probably feels the same way. At the end of the day, though, I think that this contract situation with Lamar Jackson and the Ravens is causing a split in the Ravens franchise between the coaches and the players. Listen to how Coach Harbaugh talks about this Lamar situation versus how the players talk about it. The players kind of back up Lamar. They say Lamar, he wasn't able to go in this game. Marlon Humphrey said he was hobbled. He was 60%. Meanwhile, you listen to Coach Harbaugh, he doesn't say, Lamar Jackson just wasn't able to play. He just said Lamar Jackson, he's not with us. We're over with Tyler Huntley. He's kind of a little bit dismissive about it. It doesn't really sound like he's trying to, protect Lamar. He doesn't have to protect Lamar, but he could really just, end all of this speculation and just say Lamar Jackson didn't make the trip because he was unable to play. I don't really understand why Harbaugh doesn't come out and just put all these rumors and speculations in the bud. Because honestly, Lamar Jackson, if he can't play and his PCL injury is as bad as what he described on Twitter, then there's no way that Lamar Jackson or that version of Lamar Jackson would have been good enough to give the Ravens the win against the Bengals. And yeah, the players may feel like Lamar Jackson, if he would have played, could have won. But I mean, what version of Lamar Jackson were you going to get? Was a 60% hobbled version of Lamar really good enough to beat Cincinnati? I don't think so. I think 100% fully healthy Lamar, or even a 90 or 80% Lamar could have beaten the Bengals in this game. But to say Lamar quit, I just think is, a little bit harsh. I don't think you can say a guy quit when obviously there's a team that looks like they don't want to pay the guy what he's worth. You see, let's be honest, bruh. If Lamar Jackson didn't play this year, everybody would be calling him a quitter. But Lamar Jackson plays, he gets hurt, says he can't come back, says he doesn't feel well enough to play, and yet we want to push a narrative that, he doesn't want to play because of the contract. Like, bruh, nobody gives a damn if you had a PCL injury. I had somebody on Twitter arguing with me talking about something, bro. I had a PCL injury. I went through this. Okay, bruh. Just because you had the same injury doesn't mean you're going through the same pain. Everybody recovers from injuries different. You're not Lamar. You're not in Lamar's head. You don't know how Lamar Jackson feels. So I kind of hate the fact that people are trying to call Lamar Jackson a quitter, when if Lamar Jackson really was a quitter, it would have been shown because he probably wouldn't have played this season. Lamar Jackson literally came out and said that I'm giving a deadline for my contract extension because I don't want it to become a distraction, and yet people are still using it as it's the reason for why Lamar Jackson isn't on the field when he already cleared it up months before the season started, and yet people are still using this. People are still using this. I'm pretty sure if Lamar Jackson could have played, he would have played. If Lamar Jackson wanted to be out there and he could have suited up and played, he would have. It's the damn playoffs. Why wouldn't he play? You got to remember, Lamar Jackson has every reason to play. Okay, even if the Ravens do owe him a new contract extension, he's still out there trying to prove it. This would have been another opportunity for Lamar Jackson to prove why the Ravens should pay him what he wants. So you really think Lamar Jackson just doesn't want to play because of the contract negotiations? Bruh, if anything, these contract negotiations are more reason for Lamar Jackson to play. He's trying to prove to the Ravens and everybody else that, hey, I'm worth all the money that I'm asking for. Lamar Jackson not playing doesn't help him in contract negotiations. At least with the Baltimore Ravens, it helps him become healthier eventually for when the team that if a team wants to trade for Lamar Jackson, if the Ravens can't come to terms with a long-term deal with him, then it helps his value out that way, because then he'll be more healthier and you'll have less concerns. But for Lamar Jackson, for those of you guys saying Lamar Jackson isn't playing because of the injury, bruh, he has every reason to play. He doesn't really have too many reasons why he shouldn't play. Yeah, you can say, well, JT's protecting himself, but I'm pretty sure Lamar Jackson wants every single penny that he's asking for. So therefore, when you bet on yourself, you got to go out there and prove it. You got to go out there and get it done. So Lamar Jackson, if he was able to play in this game, I'm pretty sure he would have played. There's no reason for him not to. If he had a good game and the Ravens would have won this matchup, it would have been more ammunition for Lamar Jackson when it came to his contract negotiations, because then after the season, he can come to the table. He can say, man, look, I have such and such record as a starter. I have the best win-loss record of any quarterback, or one of the best win-loss records of any quarterback in the league since I became the starter. I've won 2 playoff games now. I mean, dang, man, pay me. You get what I'm saying? But now without this, if you're the Ravens, now you have a little bit more leverage. You see how this works? It's all about leveraging. Lamar Jackson, if he could have played in this game, I promise you he probably would have played. Lamar Jackson took a gamble on himself. He wanted to prove himself this year. Lamar Jackson could have easily taken whatever deal the Ravens gave him, but nah, he said, nah, that ain't good enough. He betted on himself, and ultimately, it failed, unfortunately, because he once again is injured, just like how he was last year. And now people are having these long-term health concerns about, if you pay Lamar, can you trust him to stay healthy? So I don't really think that Lamar Jackson quit on the Ravens. I don't think him not playing in the game against the Cincinnati Bengals was due to contract negotiations. I just honestly believe that Lamar Jackson wasn't healthy enough to suit up for this game. This is it for this episode of the JT Sports Podcast. I appreciate you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, make sure that you leave us a 5-star review, share the pod with your friends, family members, and acquaintances. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys shortly with another episode of the JT Sports Podcast.